Tonight, we're going to continue our series in Joshua. We'll be looking at Joshua chapter 5, verses 13 through 15. So, again, Joshua chapter 5, verses 13 through 15. And I invite you to join me at that section right now. So, again, Joshua chapter 5, verses 13 through 15, which says, Now, when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, Are you for us or for our enemies? Neither, he replied, but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, What message does my Lord have for his servant? The commander of the Lord's army replied, Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. And Joshua did so. So, to do just a little bit of a review of where we've been up until now. So, Israel, they've crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land, the land that they finally get to go to after being wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. So again, they crossed the Jordan River and they made two memorials. One was 12, and each of these have 12 stones to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. One of them was in the middle of the Jordan River where the priests were holding the Ark of the Covenant to part the ways of the Jordan River. And the second one was in Gilgal. And so both of those memorials were there to show what God did at that time. Once they got across the Jordan River, they also spent some time circumcising the men, as God said to circumcise all the men that are part of the nation, as all the men that were a part of this new generation did not get circumcised. You see, the men did get circumcised before the 40 years wandering in the wilderness, but all those men have now passed away. And so this new generation has now been circumcised, as well as the people have celebrated Passover. This is the third time that Passover was celebrated. The first time was in Egypt during the last plague, the 10th and final plague. And then the second time was during their time at Mount Sinai. And so then this is the third time that Passover was celebrated. It was not celebrated during the 40 years. And so now Joshua goes off on his own and he looks up and he sees a commander of the army of the Lord. Now, some translations might use the word captain. Now, he doesn't know this right away, but he sees that there's a man with a drawn sword. He's a warrior, prepped and ready for battle. So Joshua goes up to this man and he says, Are you with us? Or are you with our enemies? Now, this commander, this captain responds, Neither. He says that as a commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Now, what's so unique about this encounter? See, this is not an ordinary commander. This is not an ordinary captain. This is not an ordinary warrior. This is a commander of the Lord's army. This is an event of the incarnation of Jesus Christ. See, we see other times with this in the Old Testament. For example, we see this when Jacob is wrestling someone, and Jacob's name then gets changed to Israel, which means wrestled with God or fought with God. That was another time that we see the pre-incarnation of Jesus Christ in the Old Testament. And this here is one of them. Now, when this commander responds with uh, with with which side that he's for, he responds with, "I'm not on either side. I'm a commander of the Lord, and I am now here." You see, he's saying this commander, he's saying it's like, "Hey, I'm not on your side. I'm not on the other side. Not on the side of humans. I'm on God's side." So it's not necessarily focusing on like whose side. It's saying I'm on God's side. And this is also a great time for us to even reflect, like, which side are we even on? Are we on our side? Are we on God's side? Whose side are we on? Joshua then fell face down. So some translations might use the word bow down. See, this is a time uh, of respect. This is giving the proper authority, the respect. There are translations that say that he bowed down and worshipped him. The translation that I'm using, the NIV, says that he gave reverence. That Joshua, when he fell face down, in reverence of this person, of this commander. See, Joshua is now understanding that he is not alone. See, if you reflect back from chapter 1 of this book, the first 9 verses, we find that God told Joshua that he will never leave him nor forsake him. You see, God keeps his promises. God told Joshua that he was not going to leave him nor forsake him. And this is an extra confirmation for Joshua, saying like, "Hey, I'm not done with you yet. I haven't left you. I haven't forsaken you. Like, we're just getting started here. We got a lot more to go, and I'm not going anywhere." God doesn't break his promises. He keeps his promises. For Joshua, I wouldn't be surprised if he had felt a little bit alone. Now, sure, he had the entire nation around him. He probably would talk to his officers, talk with maybe members of the nation of Israel. But in the position of leadership, it can be a little lonely. So I wouldn't be surprised if Joshua just felt a little bit alone in terms of like the personal sense. And so this is just an extra little reminder from God saying, "Hey, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere." In verse 15, we see an interesting little segment here, a little picture from what the commander told Joshua to do. The commander told Joshua to take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. Now, does that sound a little familiar to you? Maybe if you remember when Moses was in front of the burning bush. We see this in Exodus chapter 3. And what does the burning bush tell Moses? "Take off your sandals, because where you're standing is holy ground." See, that this is another example of the pre-incarnation of Jesus Christ. See, it's where he is standing is holy ground. Now, what does the commander tell Joshua? Not only there to just say like, "Oh, hey, just take off your sandals," and then he leaves. He gives him something else. The commander gives Joshua some instructions. See, Joshua probably went by himself to think about the strategy on how to attack Jericho. Because, like, well, this is going to be the first big battle to take the land back, to take the promised land back for the Israelites, for the Hebrews. So maybe he's just thinking, trying to figure out what to do. And then, bam, this guy comes out of nowhere. The commander of the Lord's army is here to help him strategize of what to do. And we'll take a look next week of this plan that the commander gives Joshua, and that's in Joshua chapter 6. But yeah, again, we'll do that for next week. But he gives him, it's not just take off your sandals for where you're standing this holy ground. It's giving him the plan of what to do at the beginning of this conquest. So what can we learn about this little section, these 3 verses? The first one is that we serve a holy God, one who deserves our worship. He's the only one who is worth our worship. He deserves our praise. But also is that we serve a God who doesn't break his promises. Sometimes we do feel lonely, lost, confused, but we serve a God who never leaves us nor forsakes us. So we don't have to be scared about going about daily tasks or even being the leader of a nation, because God does not abandon us. He doesn't break his promises. In fact, I just want to close with just the chorus of a song by Jeremy Camp entitled Break Your Promises. It goes like this. And now I'm not going to sing for you, but I just want you to hear these words. I've seen you break my fall and put my world back together. Seen you break through walls more times than I can remember. But I've never seen you break your promises. I've never seen you break your promises. Let us pray.